Hey, man. All right. Can you hear me all right? You're not. Oh, hold on.
I'm here, buddy.
There we go.
Yes.
I lost your video, though. There we are.
There we go. TV, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. How are you today?
Good. It's happy hour time, right?
Yes, it is.
Happy hour here on the Builder's Grid. Why don't you take it
Absolutely.
away, buddy?
Well, we're gonna just chill for a few minutes. Let's let some people get in. You know, we're starting at 7, so I don't want to give some people a chance to get here and check things out. You know, it takes a little while to get in. So, how's the work from home life going there with everybody in the house?
Well, I'm barely keeping my marbles assembled. I've got a wife and 2 daughters here at the house, and they're pretty social and and smart on top of it. So I don't get anything over on these guys, and they're keeping me busy. That's for sure. There's a lot of negotiating going on here.
Yeah.
It's good practice for the construction industry because you have to argue for what you get around here, just like you do out in the field.
That's for sure. We're kind of in the same boat here. Everybody's locked in the house. Crazy
Right.
thing was, though, you can't make this up in Georgia. So the governor comes on yesterday afternoon and issues a press release that we're going to lock down to shelter in place. But he doesn't know exactly what it's going to mean or what it's going to be. He's going to have another press conference on Thursday at 2 o'clock. And then it's going to start sometime on Friday. So everybody's in a mad panic because nobody knows what the rules are going to be. It's like, couldn't you think that out before you made the announcement in the first place? Like, we've only been going through this for weeks.
Well, and I imagine there's going to be a mad rush to the beach, or the beach is shut down there in Georgia. I'm here in Chicago, just for
we're shut down.
viewers.
So.
Okay, well that's wise, obviously. I mean, we got to be sensible about things.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty funny. Like, we've been talking about this for 3 weeks and you couldn't have it figured out before you gave a press conference to get everybody in a panic.
Yeah, well, you never know what motivates people. I just know what we're motivated to do, and that's take care of our fellow brethren in the construction industry. And, speaking of that, I know we'll probably touch on this a little bit later, but watching the president's briefing today, he had Steve Mnuchin on, and I really haven't heard much, heard him speak much for the length of the time that he did today. And he had a pretty solid grasp on, or at least sure garnered a lot of confidence about these programs that we're going to talk about today or this evening at happy hour on the Builder's Grid that are going to be launched here, not only for businesses, but independent contractors, sole proprietorship and alike. And he laid it out pretty nice.
Yeah, it was good. I didn't get to see it, but I've been paying attention to him the whole time. That's who I kind of watch, just tune out the rest of the buzz that's out there. Cause as I was telling you before, like the whole media thing around all this stuff just drives me crazy. Like as soon as they announced that bill, like all these people started putting posts on social media, like, don't apply for this, don't apply for that, call me first. Like this fear mongering, just trying to, get somebody to sign up with them, and they want to charge them. Like I mean, one guy was putting the thing out on one of the things. He was running ads that if you paid him $99, he'd put you on his list for when the loans come available, so that you'd be one of the first to get to apply. Like, well,
of course, buyer beware, and people should know that the application process, as listed on SBA.gov or whatever it is, the Treasury.gov websites are free. Remember, they are free. So if anybody tells you that they can do something better, buyer beware.
Yeah, because and we'll get into this, but the disaster loan, you apply right there on the SBA site. And then the payroll protection loan, you go to your bank or a bank that's an SBA bank. It's as simple as that. It's like, but I think some of these people were accountants or lawyers, and or not.
Not that there's anything wrong with accountants or lawyers, but
No, no,
maybe
not at
you
all.
don't
But
really. I think the process has really been made simple enough where you can go online and fill it out without needing that paid
absolutely.
advice. Yeah,
And
carry on.
you're going to need an accountant for sure, at least, maybe not in this beginning to apply, but your accountant's probably going to need to get involved when it comes time with the proceeds. But it was just people, it just drives me crazy
Right.
when people try to do that to take advantage. And it's kind of why I went out and started learning all this stuff about it too, so I could share it for free, as I do most of the stuff. Just try to help everybody out.
Right. Not only do you provide 400 hours of content on every subject under the sun for our listeners and viewers and our clientele base, but we're always endeavoring, I guess, together as a team to offer more and more.
Yep, that's what we're here to do. So yeah, so I mean, that's really what we're here for. So let's talk a little bit about I'm glad you got to hear directly from Mnuchin, but I figured we'd start on the disaster injury, or the economic injury disaster loans, which are the first things that came out. Those actually came out. You were able to apply for those a couple of weeks ago as soon as there was a disaster declared. Those are pretty simple loans. They do have interest in them, but they're a loan that's available to anybody that's been impacted by the coronavirus. And based on the declarations, it's every state in the U.S. and all the territories and everybody is able to apply for those. And it's a good program. That particular loan can be applied for. That's something that can be used, it can be applied for loss of revenue. There's a lot of flexibility of what you can use that loan for versus what comes out in that payroll protection loan. So, I mean, did they talk much about that today on his thing? Was he talking about he was more talking about the payroll than the.
Yes, in addition, the director of the SBA, her name escapes me right now, very eloquent lady. She was talking about the various loans for the paycheck program, as well as this to be inclusive of all small businesses. So between the two of them, they exuded a lot of confidence about this stuff being smoothly transitioned quickly over to the public. And on the going to the bank loan processes, they said that there's going to be a broad participation. There's some snafus with Chase Bank, apparently, most likely wanting to know about how they can maybe minimize or at least mitigate a little bit of expense and all of the regulatory compliance issues that are costly, quite frankly. And they're rather robust. If you're in the banking industry or know anything about it, they have to prevent things like terrorists or money laundering or these kinds of shenanigans that are played. So consequently, there's an awful lot of regulatory requirement to comply with when you're dealing with massive amounts of money, particularly with 350 billion, right?
Yep.
So that's kind of what I got in general from the processes today. I know you're going to go through a little bit more detail of how you go online, but just to kind of banter about here about some of the handle I think that Mnuchin has on the processes was pretty comforting.
Yeah, and one thing that was pretty interesting to me, that one of the things that came out early that a lot of people started saying was you couldn't apply for both of these loans. If you applied for one, you couldn't apply for the other. And that's not the case. I've heard that directly from the SBA and as well the Department of Treasury.
Right.
And actually reading the bill, it's in the bill that way, because they tell you that in this economic disaster loan, if you apply for that and you take the early help grant that comes out, it's not really a grant, but the loan that ultimately gives forgiven, that the portion of that they give you in that immediate relief is deducted from your portion of your payroll protection loan that you can have forgiven. So obviously in the bill, it said you can have both. So what I've been recommending everybody do is absolutely apply for the economic disaster loan.
Right.
Get in there and apply for that thing. And even, you know, the other day, the SBA said, absolutely apply for both. If you figure out you don't need them both, then you don't have to take them both. But you want to apply for both, because the economic disaster loan doesn't come with as much control on what you can spend that money on. The payroll protection loan that we'll talk about a little later, it's got some clear stipulations of where that money has to go. But the economic disaster loan, it's super easy to apply for. If you go to the
Right.
SBA.gov website, there's a big link right at the top, and you click on it, and there's like 3 pages that you fill out with some basic information. It's just your business information and things that you're, you know, they ask you a few questions about revenue and cost of goods sold and your number of employees. You have to fill out, when you're filling that out, if you check the little box for the immediate grant or the immediate advance, they call it, that is calculated
Of
out.
up to $10,000, right?
Correct. It's up to 10,000, and that is based on your number of employees. So the way that I understand that is calculated, it's $1,000 per employee. So if you have 3 employees, they're gonna front you 3,000 in it, and if you have more than 10, it caps out at $10,000.
Is that effectively going to be forgiven down the road? I mean, or is it not? Is that ambiguous at this point?
No, it does get forgiven, and the way it works is there's 2 ways. Number one, if you don't get approved for an economic disaster loan, and they gave you $5,000, you don't have to pay it back. If you ultimately get 5,000 in that loan program, and then you get a payroll protection loan program, which in that payroll protection loan program, all of the monies you spend on payroll and payroll related expenses get forgiven later in the loan. If you got $5,000 in that immediate advance, that is deducted from the amount of money that's relieved in that payroll protection loan.
Right.
So if I get 5,000 in the immediate relief, and then I take out a $100,000 loan on the payroll protection program, and I spend $100,000 on payroll, they're going to include that 5,000 and take that away from what they relieve of that $100,000 loan. So they would only relieve 95,000, because in essence, I got 105,000 from the government, right? Like I got the 100,000 loan and the 5,000. So
right, a little double dip prevention, but still, it's still a great game.
Right, exactly. That's the whole point. You can't double dip with it. But now, if you know that 5,000, because it's not stipulated to have to be paid back, that's why they're saying they'll take it out of that. If you get a $10,000 emergent, the disaster loan, but you only get 5,000 up front, and then you get another 5,000 later, that 5,000 that's not part of the immediate is just the standard loan. And that can be used to pay equipment notes and other stuff.
Overhead.
There's a lot more you can do with that.
Right.
It's super easy to apply for.
And if you don't mind, I want to give your Contracting Coach Cast Academy, Contracting Coach Academy, a little plug here. Did you did you post the link yet on our Builders Grid page? If not, why don't you tell people about where they can go do a quick tutorial where you actually go through the application in its simplicity. And I don't think it's more than 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's like a 5-minute little video. It's at academy.contractingcoach.com. You go there, and when you go there, you go to the landing page for the Academy, and you'll see SBA loan. It's just a course I threw together. Right now, the module in there is about the economic disaster loan and applying for that. I'm going to continue to build that out to put more stuff about this payroll protection loan in there and everything else. I've gotten the front end application stuff from Department of Treasury that I'll get in there and stuff. So at least people can prepare a little bit before they go to the bank. So, yep, that's there for anybody that wants to check that out. So really the economic disaster loan is a pretty simple, easy thing that anybody can apply for. And I think it's great that they did that because, you know, you got these restaurants and everything that got hurt so bad that they're going to need that kind of stuff. But, you know, but the good thing is it's a long-term loan. The payments are deferred. So again, everybody should apply for it. Like, you don't have to sign the note and take the loan when the time comes. Like, why not apply for anything that's out there right now? That's what I've been advising everybody to do, is get in and apply. It's going to come down to what you need, and maybe we need all of it. We may need more, but we certainly don't want to wait and then all of a sudden 2 months from now realize that we should have applied for the disaster loan.
Yeah, particularly with the concentration of our constituents, which we like to call our fellow contractors, where another bonus coverage part of the president's address today, or his briefing, if you will, with Mnuchin and Jovita Carranza, who's the director of the SBA, very impressive lady, as well as Mr. Mnuchin, as I like to repeat and have confidence in. But they also mentioned, at least Mr. Mnuchin did, that there's a few things that the president wants to include or can include in some of these funds that aren't generally needing approval by Congress. And two of them wrap around the airline industry and air cargo industry, and cargo, I guess, for national security purposes, etc., charities and contractors. And that's very encouraging. So maybe, I guess it's going to be phase 4, Tony, coming up, or something along those lines, where they were discussing an enormous inclusion, if you will. I don't want to say it's going to be exclusively for the construction industry, but boy, wouldn't that be nice to ride with and utilize a lot of the resources in Tony's Academy and Contracting Coach, and a lot of the resources we offer here at the Builders Grid, including our fun little happy hour. I mean,
Yeah.
it'd be nice in a couple 3 months to see guys start and gals starting to get low bids and start planning for the ramp up, right?
I think we ought to add that. That ought to be our topic for next week, the whole recovery and transportation bill. Let's put that on the notes, and we'll
Sure.
talk about that next week. So I think, yeah, so just to wrap up the disaster loan so we can get on here. I know everybody's busy. It's a night, but just to wrap that up, like I said, it's easy to apply for. The first part, you just fill out those 3 pages, certify the stuff at the end there. They will contact you if they need any more information. And I'm sure that as they start to sort through those, they're going to reach out to everybody. What they're trying to do is make it simple, get that initial advance out to everybody. And then, you know, they'll follow up to get your financial statements and those things like that to back up that loan. But we should all apply for that, get it in, find out what they come back with. It may take a month or so because I know that's all backed up, and but get in there and it doesn't hurt to apply, and it only takes a few minutes to get in there and apply. So you don't need a whole lot. You don't, like, even the SBA was saying, like, you don't need, like, it's not just how you file your taxes. Look at your taxes for your latest tax return, and you know that can help you figure out what's cost of goods versus what's revenue. But we know that we can run a report in QuickBooks or our accounting software, get our revenue and our cost of goods, and plug it in there and get that moving.
Yeah, agreed. And great job explaining that for us laymen, including myself, with respects to the ease by which our government has actually done an incredible job of making this process to apply for. I know that this is my first and Tony's first Builders Grid happy hour, but I've been delighted to share this time with you. Tony, I appreciate your inspiration and all that you do, and I'll do the same in my expertise with bonds and underwriting and so forth. And maybe next week we could talk about how we can apply some of these sciences to that impending or hopefully eventual stimulus package.
Yeah, and you know, after and we'll dig in now to the payroll protection program loan. Before we do that, we'll take a quick break for our sponsors. Oh,
Yes.
oh shit, we don't have a sponsor yet.
Hey, if there's any sponsors out there, I don't know, Anheuser-Busch. I mean, we do call ourselves Happy Hour after all.
Grab us
And
a sponsor real quick.
And we'll let you know as our viewership increases, because we don't want to, our intention is to, introduce a little bit of levity while talking about our construction matters of the United States of America, which is certainly are the backbone of the red,
Or
white,
at
and
least,
blue.
and maybe anybody else that wants to be a part. We'll get some people on the show one day too, for sure. I'll give a quick little plug though for my local bank. I went on there on Wednesday to check out if they were handling the SBA loans and everything.
Right.
And they actually had a page already done, had the whole thing set up, and they had more information on their page than I could find from many others. So it was pretty cool to see that the local bank was on top of it. I know some other banks are, real.
Well, if you're going to give the
on
bank
it.
a plug, I mean, give them a plug. What's the name of the bank?
Ameris Bank.
Well, there you have it. All right. Way to go, Ameris.
Nice
That
little
one's
private,
that's a freebie on Tony.
Yeah, it was, but yeah, they did have a nice little thing there, and I was able to. They actually had the initial sign up stuff in there already. The basic stuff you could sign up, put it all in, and I guess probably started their lineup for getting everybody in for that.
So is it your understanding that you don't have to necessarily go interact personally with the banker locally? You can do this all online?
Well, no, I'm pretty sure that there'll be a point in time with these loans that you're going to have to interact.
That's what I'm thinking. Is there a threshold that you're aware of?
What's that?
Is there a threshold that you're aware of?
No, I'm pretty sure it's all going to go through. It's going to be a traditional loan package, right? It's just it's been streamlined, and what they did on as far as requirements is they removed a lot of the SBA requirements. So there's no collateral, there's no personal guarantees, and a lot of stuff like that. And they took the rating out that allows the banks to know that as long as they loan this money to somebody that meets the basic criteria, then the bank can ultimately shuttle the loan off to the SBA. I mean, that's, when you look at the big picture, that's all the SBA is doing anyway. They just guarantee the loan. So they just basically, the bank can say, okay, I'll loan this money to whoever, because if they default, I'm just calling the SBA and the SBA is going to give me the money back. I mean, that's the big picture of the SBA loan program. But anyway, so the payroll protection program loan, it's a loan set up basically to keep people working. And any company out there that has payroll or has, as you mentioned, the sole proprietors and all them, the 1099 employees can all apply for this loan. The short and dirty of it is they're going to allow you to borrow up to 2.5 times your average monthly payroll over the last year. There is some workarounds if you're seasonal. So for the landscapers and people, especially that, up in the colder regions where construction may shut down a lot in the winter, if you're a seasonal business as determined by the SBA, then they lower that area where they get your average. Instead of taking through the slow months, they just take the heavy months. But you get 2.5 times your payroll is the loan value that you can get. Once your loan is approved and you get your loan proceeds, that starts the time for where you're supposed to use that money now for payroll. And the way the program's set up, when you get done that 8 weeks, all the money that you've spent on payroll, including taxes, benefits, anything like that, anything payroll related, will get relieved from paying back. So you don't have to pay that money back as long as you bring your payroll back up to pre-corona levels. If you don't bring it back up, like if you don't hire anybody back, well, then they're going to make you pay all that money back. Like, I mean, they're not handing this out, but it is a handout, right? Like it
Right,
really,
with the appropriate validation behind it. So that's where you had mentioned earlier, that's when you may want to engage with that accountant who can help you, abide by some of those, regulatory and compliance issues to prove out that you don't need to reimburse them any money that you don't need to, right?
right. So that you make sure you're using that money in the proper way and documenting everything you need to document. Because that I think, they're making the application process very easy, but you got to figure it's the government. They're not going to make it as easy to get the loan relieved. Like, that's going to be chaos too. So everybody that gets these loans, make sure you document very well what you spend money on.
There you have it.
But
Yeah, that transparency will be, I'm sure, critical down the road. So if you're well intended and do the right thing, you're going to be in a good space.
right. So that's what you get. You get this money. Now, in addition to payroll, they are going to allow the businesses they're going to relieve the amount of money in that loan that you spend on any rent payments for your
Yep, overhead
space. They're going to forego your utilities. And this is all based on your averages too. Like you can't run out and all of a sudden, spend a lot more on utilities. And if you have a mortgage, if you bought your building instead of leasing it or renting it, they will allow you to deduct the interest out of the mortgage from
right.
what you pay back. So if I borrow $100,000 and over the course of the time period that they set in the loan, once I get my money, if I spend $95,000 of that on payroll, lease, and all that stuff, then when I submit all that to the bank when this is over, all that goes away. I no longer owe that $95,000. I only owe $5,000 that maybe didn't qualify in the right places, right? So in a lot of ways, I mean, it's kind of like a little bit of socialism, right? Like when you think about it.
Yeah, as I understand it now, I mean, of course, things are changing every day in all sorts of areas that will surround this. I guess ultimately as it plays out, but it is designed to maintain businesses to stay in business, and this is the way you do it. You've got to be ready to respond when business picks up. And how do you do it? 50%, it's said that of all small businesses that go out of business don't ever recover.
Yeah.
So it's better to invest $1 trillion to get $10 million worth of economy than to save a bunch of money and let people go out of business, and then it costs your economy much a bigger multiple. At least that's how Mnuchin was describing it as well. He used that very example.
Absolutely. And I think it was, I mean, to me, the whole package, the whole program is pretty smart. Get that money into the hands of the people that work every day, that spend that money every day. Like, we got to get it down there. So we give it to the businesses so they can put it out to their employees. So I think the loans, it's a great thing. It is going to take a little confusion, I'm sure, with the bank. So I've been telling everybody, like, get this stuff together, get your package together, get ready to get it in with your banker and, go see them. I know a lot of banks are closed. Mine's closed. They don't have office hours, but they set appointments. And so they have, basically one person in the office at a time. But get all that
a little
stuff.
Curbside cash and grab, eh?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But yeah, so, we got to get that together, get in and apply for that. And it starts tomorrow for anybody that's a business. The independent contractors and those people that are 1099 contractors, you have to wait till next week to apply. Just, I guess, spread the rush out a little bit. But get in there. Your bank's going to know what you really need. So, again, we don't need to, like, we may talk to our accountant and our lawyers, but we don't need to pay them. I mean, other than to help us prepare something, but there's no magic person out there that has the golden ticket to get this loan any faster. Any SBA lender can go do this. And they're actually working with a lot of the fintech companies out there to get them approved real quick as well, who weren't SBA lenders. just to try to streamline the process some. But it's a great program. And the big thing is, okay, once you get approved and you get your money, you got to remember, you got to bring your people back to work if you've laid them off.
Yes.
But there's no stipulation in it of what those people do, right? Like if I'm still on a job, which some of us still are, like I still have people that are still working on a job. It doesn't matter. If I use that payroll to pay my people out there generating revenue, it's still relieved. I still don't have to pay it back because I'm putting payroll into the hands of my workers. The other thing I think that's important for everybody to recognize here, if you are shut down, okay, take this time, get the money, take the time to work on your business. Like a lot of us have project managers and people like that they're so busy normally that maybe they can't help us develop a system or a process or something like that. But now if we have them working from home and we're getting paid by the government to employ them, then they're employees, they can work for us. So let them start helping you with the business stuff. Let them start helping design some of those things. Get them engaged in like, how can we make our processes better? How can we make our systems better? Because they're essentially sitting at home employed by you, right? I mean,
right. There's not only the teamwork that you can engage with your staff and your project supers and so forth, and helping streamline a better way of life when it comes to communication throughout the chain of a job. They can perform other duties like making calls to general contractors for prospective bids, or you as a leader of a company can take a minute or a few moments to have a sit down with your surety agent or your banker. Obviously, bankers might be not the best place to start, but maybe you can engage somehow like we do with our customers on surety and how we can help them better their systems. We engage in that type of coaching all the time. So these are good times for both team members of a company to engage with all of the interactive resources available that only we have on Builders Grid's platform, but the Contracting Coaches platform, there's numerous other opportunities to learn again from people that you still know and that you trust now and know, and then exploring other things while you're getting used to maybe a more technological advance in your skill sets to improve during this downtime while getting paid, right, Tony?
Yeah, while getting paid for their labor. Like now, if I was, I'll tell you, if I was a local business that works directly to homeowners, like, you know, what I call direct to consumer, if I have let's say I have a plumbing company.
Right.
And I got this loan. So now my people are working for me. I'm getting paid by the government for them to work for me. So I'd be advertising everywhere I can. Call me during this pandemic. Call us. If you've got a problem at your house, we're coming out for free. Free service to everybody. Why not? I'm getting paid for it. Like if I had carpenters, I'd be building benches right now. And when it's all said and done, I'd be going out to all the little leagues, all these people saying, hey, we've built these benches. Like, you know, your dugout needed a new bench. So I had my carpenters build the bench while they were off and furloughed through this. I put them back to work and we built benches, and now we're donating them to the city or to the little leagues, to the soccer fields. Like, think of the brand you can build right now.
With a little philanthropic effort, right?
Yeah, just you're getting paid by the government. Put your people back to work.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them can build your business. Some of them can build things that can be used in the community.
Right,
and
right.
We can get back out. We go out. We donate them to the Boys and Girls Club or whatever. Say, look, we made you this because we know you need new bleachers. Like, we made new bleachers for you. Like,
right, and then there's other team members of this ecosystem, you know, that can engage with various trade associations, for example, to help them conduct some outreach and some educational opportunities for their membership. There's a ton of them in the construction trades, as we always know. There's also a lot of surety resources, insurance resources, coaching resources that you provide that are also available during these times when you can spend a little extra free time improving your own skill sets when you are basically locked down on jobs.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I think it's a good opportunity. I know it's not, I guess to me, it's the silver lining, right? Like there's at least something good. I mean, would we rather be in a normal April day? Of course we would. We'd rather be working. We'd rather be on our projects. But if we're going to be in this situation, like I said from the beginning, let's look forward. Let's make the most out of it, because we're going to have a boom when this is over. There's pent up demand that's going to come out, and hopefully, like we're going to talk about next week, a big transportation bill comes out. Like we're going to see a boom. So let's build foundations now. Let's build our awareness in our community. If we're a small community developed company, get out there, do everything, do what you can right now to prepare. Like I said, obviously you can't be out riding around and doing stuff if you're in one of the states with a shelter in place rules, but that doesn't mean that you can't get some lumber and have your guys work at home, putting some things together that can ultimately benefit the community.
Mm-hmm.
And now you get to be philanthropic, get that brand built, and all for minimal cost, because you only got to pay for the materials. I mean, the government's not going to let you have those for free, but at least your people are working, right?
Right, gives them a sense of purpose as well. And like Tony says, the branding opportunities of goodwill, they're priceless.
And a little marketing plug, you can even, it's a good time to hire a consultant too. Like if you're saving some payroll, right? It's a good time. It's a good time for training, like you mentioned. Like, okay, you've got a project manager or a superintendent that maybe can't work on the jobs right now, but you got this loan, you got to put them back to work. There's hundreds of courses online. Go out there, find some good courses for them to take, some project management courses, some, software courses, whatever it is. You can now, this guy's working for you for free at home for a week. You can afford to buy a couple courses for them to take, right? Like, start looking at all these great things that we can make out of this. It's like, we got to look at the silver lining, find out what's out there, but there's a lot of great things like that. But, let them get trained up. All the major courses have figured out how to do it online. What about safety training? We all need to reinforce our safety training on a regular basis. Well, guess what? If you get this loan and you bring your people back to work, but you still can't work on your jobs yet, that's the perfect time to update all your OSHA certs, get all that safety training done.
Not to mention some of the other best practices involved in construction that aren't around building, but rather the financial accountability side of the equation. The latest and greatest of how surety companies look at work in progress schedules, which are a key element in the underwriting process. Some great courses available online as well for the best practices inside the office.
Yeah, so there's a lot of opportunity here. It's a bad place to be. None of us want to be there, but we got to make the best of it. And that's what I've been working with, everybody I can, saying, look, let's make the best of it. Let's get what we can. Let's look to the future, right? Like I told you that, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I said, when this gets bad, they're going to have to come out of the other side with construction money.
Right. Oh, you were clairvoyant to a certain extent in that regard. It's been talked about a bit in the past, but now it seems to be popping up more frequently, and that's a great gesture to anybody who is in the construction industry. And hats off to you, wizard.
Well, it just made sense to me, right? Like it just made sense, and we'll definitely. That's our topic next week for sure. We'll jump into that and talk a lot about that, and maybe share some things. Get the community involved in pushing for that kind of infrastructure bill and make sure some money gets into the construction hands. But just to sum up the SBA program.
Right, time frames, if you could kind of give some key time frames and
Yeah,
so
so
forth.
the injury relief for the economic disaster loans, those are right there on the SBA website. Apply for them now. When you go to SBA.gov, there's a big banner at the very top. As soon as you click on it, it's going to take you right to that loan application. It's 3 pages. The first page is just clarifying who you are and that you're not debarred or selling sex videos or whatever, like, and you're not gambling with the money, right? Like that's basically what it means.
Literally, those are on the application.
Yeah, I know. It's like, it's not hard to qualify, and so you just, that's like 3 pages. Fill it out. Make sure you check to get the immediate draw portion, the advanced portion, because that is the only portion of the economic disaster loan that will be forgiven. So make sure everybody understands that. If you borrow $25,000 on the economic disaster loan and they gave you $3,000 of an advance, the other $22,000 you have to pay back. It's only the advance that is forgiven in the economic disaster loan. But that's very easy to apply for. Timing, they still don't know how quick some of that stuff's going to turn around. They said the grant would be there in 3 days, but I think they're having a hard time making that happen.
Hey, Tony, on timing, the start payback time is when of next year?
On the economic disaster loan, if I'm not mistaken, is not until 2021.
Got it. So you got a
That's
piece to
deferred.
plan and escrow out some funds too as you recover, to keep that in mind. But
yeah, so you got time to get back on your feet. And then the payroll protection program loans. Large regular businesses, anybody that files in, basically if you file your taxes with an employee identification number, right? However you do that, like whether it's under, for me, it's I file with an EIN, but it's under my 1040 tax return. I can apply starting tomorrow. So anybody with an EIN that files taxes under that EIN, that company can apply starting tomorrow.
okay, good on the time frame.
The rest of people out there, which they did this all for, like the Uber drivers and people like that are independent contractors.
Right.
A lot of consultants or independent contractors get 1099s.
Painters, I mean, there's plenty.
Right, those people, sole proprietors, and those have to wait until next Friday to
Correct.
submit their applications. Again,
Okay.
with that loan, that there are stipulations on what the loan can be used for. It's essentially, it's really to circumvent too many people on unemployment. They realize that if they didn't do this, these people are all going to be unemployment sitting home. So why not put the money somewhere else and put them to work? So that goes for payroll and some miscellaneous overhead expenses. It's calculated 2.5 times your monthly payroll expenses over the past year. That money, again, when you get it, there's a time frame that you need to start spending that money, and is all the money that's spent on payroll expenses and the eligible expenses will be forgiven. You will not have to pay it back. Pay attention.
Very good.
Pay attention on that loan though to the time frames, right? Because we don't want to miss the deadline. And there are a couple stipulations. Your payroll cannot drop. I think it's by more than 25%. So you can't like thin down payroll and try to stretch that money. They want you to get back to your normal levels. If you have laid everyone off because of the downturn, that's still okay as long as you bring them back to work. Right? Because there was some concern about that. People were concerned, like, well, man, I've already laid everybody off, so why not qualify? And no, you do qualify. Your period of payroll when they were laid off is not counted in the calculations. the main stipulation is you've got to get back to that normal payroll level within a certain time frame in order to qualify for the forgiveness.
Right, or your forgiveness is in jeopardy. Got it. Well, Tony, great job today. Thanks for taking the academic lead on these loan programs available offered to you by our Builders Grid Happy Hour info session, if you will. I enjoy working with you, buddy, and I guess we'll see everybody else next week. You can have the closing thoughts.
Yeah, just tune in next week. We're going to talk about the recovery, and we're going to talk about an infrastructure bill. Let's talk about that and what we think it's going to do. Also, just a reminder, anybody that's listening to this, if you didn't make it tonight and you're watching this tomorrow or later in the week, if you have any questions at all, shoot them in. You can shoot them in info@buildersgrid.com. As we grow this show, we want to turn it into some more Q&A stuff so that we can maybe have a topic that we discuss and then maybe open it up and bring some Q&A. And we're also going to look at bringing in some interviews. Love to have any of you contractors out there come on sometime and join us and be on the show. And as well as we'll get some of the some other industry leaders to join us when we get into certain topics like technology and those kind of things. We've got some people on the list that we'd like to reach out to. But next Thursday night, same time, 7 p.m. Eastern, we're going to talk transportation/infrastructure bill and how we're going to get ready for the big boom.
All right, cool. Thanks, Tone. Thank you,
man.
listeners.
Thanks for hanging out. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Y'all have an amazing night, and we'll see you next week.